to the show. Today we're joined by two resident physicians at Meritus Medical Center, Dr. Sandra Fowler and Dr. Serena Lewis. And today we're going to be talking about the vaccine, the impact in our community, some of the information that we need to get out to the community, as well as dispelling some of the myths in regards to the vaccine. So welcome, ladies. Thank you for joining us. I'll let you kick it off, Henry.
All right, thank you, Reggie. We talked about this pre-recording, about how do we contact Meritus, because if you go on the Meritus website, it's the general number. And with the number of cases that we have transpiring in Washington County, it just floods the circuit board there, or switchboard. So what is the best way if, I guess multiple prong. One is, well, what if I'm concerned I have it, is there a number I can call? If we have a family member or somebody who is already in Meritus dealing with this, do we go through the general switchboard, or is there a different number that we need to deal with? And are there backup numbers in case, or is there alternative ways that we can communicate our concerns, whether we think we may have been exposed and we need to get a test, or we're almost 100% positive? What are the protocols that we need to do? And if that's too much at one time, I'm happy to chime in later.
Okay, so that's a lot of questions. All right. I'm not a resident. I'm actually an attending physician at Meritus. So, and I've been here about 26 years in the community. So a lot of people out there know me. Yeah. Hello.
That's because you look so young.
Thank you.
Okay.
So if you are concerned about whether you have been exposed and you need information on where to go to get tested or symptoms, you would call the 301-790-9170. That's the COVID hotline.
Okay.
All right. Now, if you have a loved one in the hospital, then you would call the main hospital number, which is 301-790-8000. And those numbers are readily available at the website, but if you don't have a computer or access to the internet, you may not know or be able to get to that information.
Okay, and maybe we can get this on, flash on the screen during the show so people have it as a reference too. Now, how about following up with results? I have, unfortunately, a family member who contracted it. They don't live underneath my roof, so I haven't been exposed. So everyone's safe here at the table as far as I know. But how do you find out results? If I go in for the swab test, am I contacted? Do I need to follow up with my regular physician? Do I need to follow up with Meritus? What's the way that we trace this?
So there's a twofer. So if once you go get the swab at like urgent care or in the community, we oftentimes put you in the system and you can register for My Chart. Okay. And at that time you can look at your results that way. And
if you don't have data or internet access to access My Chart, what's the alternative?
So if you're positive, right now the health department is calling, they contact your physician and let you know, let them know, and they can contact you because we'll have, of course, your personal information. And then it's also a part of the health department's initiative too, to make sure they're calling positive patients in the community and giving them education and recommendation for quarantine and things like that. So you'll get multiple calls from different places.
Okay. Reggie?
So in looking at the numbers as we're talking about infection rates of COVID, as we look around the state, it looks like our region is the second highest to Garrett and Allegheny counties. The data that I'm looking at is as of the 11th. Is that trend still continuing? I know we're only talking 2 days later, but is that trend still continuing in a bad direction at this point?
As far as I see, right now the numbers are only slowly gaining. Our county actually, last year when we first had like these multiple initiatives, we were testing many patients. Oftentimes many are asymptomatic, but those are still included in those numbers. So that's kind of why the numbers appear to be higher. A large amount of those numbers too are asymptomatic as well. So I contribute a lot of that to the testing that we do have available in our county. But we're doing our best to try to get as many initiatives out there, contacting people, letting them know, educating them. and also doing our best to try to make the vaccine available as soon as possible.
Yes. Now, in regards to testing, and I'm not sure if you covered this with Henry, is testing available at the hospital as well?
Only if you present with symptoms into the emergency department and they suspect that you have a COVID-related infection or process, and certainly if you are going to become admitted, well, they test you for the COVID virus. But if you like fell off of a ladder and went to the emergency department, you're not going to get COVID tested, even though you may have fallen off the ladder because you had COVID.
Now, I guess to sort of follow up on Reggie's question, if you suspect you have COVID, but you don't have any other amount, you didn't fall off a ladder, okay, would you prefer that they go to one of the remote testing sites instead of going into the hospital because they're dealing with actually urgent care, someone falling off a ladder or having a heart attack or something along those lines?
Absolutely.
Yes, I mean, if you just want to become COVID tested, yes, they have, Meritus has set up lots of different options for testing. The main testing center is off of Morgans Avenue at the new urgent care center that they have there, and it's a drive-through test facility, and that test is the most accurate test that they have. It seems to be taking about 24 to 48 hours for the results to come back, and if you're positive, as Dr. Lewis said, somebody will contact you either through the health department or through the urgent care themselves. All other results go to the primary physician of record, who you state is your doctor, and your doctor's office will get all the results, whether it's positive or negative.
Now, if you don't have a source of transportation, say I live in downtown Hagerstown, I don't have a source of transportation to get out. We don't want them taking public transportation. What is a resource for someone who's living that doesn't have access to transportation? What's a resource for them to possibly get tested?
That's actually a good question. There was a testing center at the Walnut Street Medical Center, but it did close because it wasn't highly utilized.
Right.
So they would have to contact the Washington County Health Department, and they would give a list of all of the other testing sites in the area.
Okay.
Certainly, I believe that the state is still testing at the Veep Center off of Washington Street, and then there's certain private testing being done at like CVS and Walgreens and things like that through their
But
doctors.
I mean, we don't want them calling an Uber and saying, can you take me to this testing center?
Right.
Okay, or hopping on the county commuter and going to the testing center.
Right.
So the best resource is for them to pick up and call the Washington County Health Department. And then they can make a reference on what resources may be available or how they can gain access to it.
Correct.
Okay.
All right. Let's transition a little bit and talk about the vaccine. Doses of the vaccine have been received and are starting to be administered within our community. Where is this process taking place? Is this at the hospital, or are there different locations where the vaccine is being given?
So right now they're doing a clinic in the Robinwood atrium, but that's largely for the first wave of people who are like healthcare providers in the community. And then now we're beginning to do 65 and older. They have to call the number that Dr. Fowler gave, and then they can give them and set up appointments for them to come, and then they get the doses that way.
And now that just got adjusted because previously it was at 75.
Exactly.
And that just got adjusted this week down to 65. So that's probably some news that some people watching may not have been aware of.
Absolutely.
Okay. What about the other age groups? Supply of vaccines? I presume each of you have had your shots?
Yes.
Have you had your follow-up shots yet?
Yes.
She has.
I have.
She has.
Yes. I get mine next week.
And probably, at least half the people watching are going to say, you got your shots. Did you feel anything? Aside from the pain in your arm from the needle, did you have a mild fever for a few hours, or did you have any side effects that that they should be alerted to or have a concern if they were going in?
So I only had arm pain, as you said, but I also took Tylenol like the day that I had the vaccine, so I didn't experience any fevers or anything like that. I'm a part of like a doctor group, and for the most part, I've heard of the side effects being the arm pain, lethargy, like you said, fevers, muscle pains, and some chills that resolves the next day.
Very similar to what the flu would have itself, right?
Exactly.
Okay, and so you've had some minor side effects. Is there any particular group that you would say, hold off, even when it becomes available to your age group, you may want to hold off considering getting this vaccine?
For me personally, as a physician, yes, there are certain groups that I wouldn't have them get it right away. Certainly everybody who's already just had COVID, if you've had the virus, the CDC is not very clear on this. Some people are saying wait 90 days from the time you actually had the COVID infection. I'm a little more conservative, and I've told my patients to wait about 6 months or until you get a negative antibody test, because if you've had the COVID infection, the logic is that if you get the vaccine, you're going to stimulate all of your immune system, and it's going to be supercharged already because you just had the infection, so you might feel very, very sick if you get the vaccine. That's the risk. Of course, Pfizer has put out sort of a disclaimer statement to say that if you have severe allergies for which you may have like anaphylaxis, where you get severe shortness of breath, or you break out in terrible hives, your tongue swells up, anything that may require the use of a rapid solution like an EpiPen, you should think twice about getting the Pfizer vaccine, and you should wait to get the Moderna vaccination. So you would opt for that vaccination.
So the vaccinations currently available, we only have Pfizer available within Washington County at this time? Or do we have Moderna also?
I think that we have Moderna because I've talked to people who have gotten the Moderna vaccination. So they're both available, but supplies may vary from day to day.
Well, we're fortunate to have you both here, and there are many in the minority community that are fearful of the vaccine. They've been fearful of getting tested, and there's a lot of myths that go along with that, but also there's a long history that we have to reckon with why minorities would be skeptical in regards to the vaccine. Can you speak to that as best you can in regards to the vaccine and what you would say to the minority community about it?
Yes, so being a part of the minority community, I felt, and this is also what I told my family, because I look at all my patients as my family as well, that it's best because our communities are significantly impacted by COVID. If they have chronic conditions, that they should get the vaccine, receive the vaccine, and just make sure that they're either getting the Pfizer 2 doses or the Moderna 2 doses. And I understand, I agree with you that there is a history there in the medical community, like i.e. example, the Tuskegee studies. A lot of African Americans feel that, okay, we're getting tested on, we're being mistreated in the medical community. But the vaccine at this point would be a good protective factor for them, unless they have the side effects, as Dr. Fowler had discussed, about anaphylaxis, allergies, things like that, to combat the disease and try to keep them protected.
Dr. Fowler, I'll allow you to help.
Well, I mean, you have to sort of follow the science and follow the facts. The facts are showing us that minorities are at greater risk for contracting the COVID virus and having a higher rate of mortality, meaning they have a higher rate of death by COVID.
Right.
So, you have to weigh the risk versus the benefit. And at this point in time, the risk of getting the COVID virus is way greater than getting the vaccine. And the vaccine is going to protect you, especially in larger family groups. I mean, as an African American, who's older. I'm much older, so my parents are still alive and they're older. So I do everything because I want to see my mother and my father and my stepmother, and I have an aunt that's 101. And I want to see her again, but I can't put her at risk because I work with people who have COVID all the time, and certainly I may contract it. So the reality is that we have loved ones who are at even greater risk than ourselves. So we have to protect one another. And then African Americans have a tendency, as well as other minority groups, to live in groups.
Yes.
So the closer you are to family groups, and the more people who live in your household, the more likely it is that the whole household is going to get COVID.
Right.
So the only way to help prevent that is that we have to vaccinate in order to develop herd immunity as fast as possible.
We're going to pause here. After the break, more with our Meritus physicians.
Did you know that Wi-Fi connects multiple devices in your home? So go ahead. Surf, game, or simply watch your favorite shows and movies anywhere in the house on any device. With Wi-Fi, your house becomes a high-tech home.
Unleash the internet in your home with Antietam Ultra Wireless Home Network. With speeds up to 1 gig, your whole family can surf together faster. We make it easy with our hassle-free professional installation. Call Antietam Broadband today and add a Wi-Fi modem free for 60 days.
For more than 10 years, the University System of Maryland at Hagerstown has been providing a local higher education option for students in the Quad State region. With more than 20 undergraduate and graduate programs from 6 Maryland State universities, there are many opportunities to earn your degree while saving on the cost of commuting.
Financial benefits to attending the program have been significant.
USMH. Academic excellence, outstanding value.
Every piece of jewelry really, if you step back from it, has more to do with the emotion behind the person that's giving the gift. That transcends whatever the value, the material value of the item is. It is something that has such meaning that, we see generations many years later. And they have the story about how great-grandfather gave this to great-grandmother, where it was, and those kinds of things. And so it's the love that's between two people that really transcends the item itself.
These really are the best years of your life, so why not make the most of them at Homewood at Williamsport? Conveniently located near Washington and Baltimore, we have a rich tradition of helping retirees maintain an independent social lifestyle. Homewood offers attractive, spacious cottages without any maintenance hassle or headaches, plus a vibrant social community and access to the best amenities and medical care. Woodlands Apartments with up to more than 1,200 square feet of beautiful living space. Now's the best time to look into Homewood at Williamsport. Enjoy worry-free living today and tomorrow at Homewood at Williamsport.
Hi, I'm Mr. CopyQuick, and at my shop, we offer many products to help market your business. Let me show you a few ideas. We offer stunning graphic design, quality printing, addressing and mailing too. Need a trade show display? We create booths that draw a crowd. Does your retail signage need a facelift? We can help. We can even turn your vehicle into a full-time salesman. Stop by and see us today. Other printers might be nearby, but no one else comes close to CopyQuick.
Looking for a communications partner who'll go the extra mile? With hundreds of fiber miles across Washington County, scalable solutions for companies of all sizes, and professional on-site installation, Antietam Broadband means business. Call Antietam to get business class internet with speeds up to 1 gig, or maximize your savings in a business bundle. Internet and phone with unlimited nationwide calling. Call Antietam Business Solutions, 301-797-5000, or go online at antietam.broadband.com/business.
In looking at the numbers, I'm looking at the numbers from the state as of the 11th, and 36% of the deaths due to COVID are in the African American community, when they only represent roughly about 32% of the population. So it is skewed, and of all the groups, they're the only group that the numbers are out of sorts, right, in regards to that. In light of the fact that Maryland it's being said here in the state of Maryland that the vaccines are not going out fast enough. What is your perception around that?
I feel like we're doing the best we can with what we have, and now, as he said, that we're trying to like reduce. We reduced the number this week to 65, and I know when I went to get my second dose on Friday, we had large lines of patients in the clinic getting vaccines. So I definitely feel like that number is going to increase very soon, especially with new administration, new distribution coming. I think that number's going to increase.
Dr. Fowler, you'll remember this. Gerald Ford pushed for a flu vaccine back in 1976. Jumped to conclusions, introduced it, and we had a lot of side effects, and it was a failed deployment. And it was rushed to market. And under Operation Warp Speed, this vaccine has been rushed to market. Now, you see a whole completely different side of things than what Reggie and I do, because you're dealing with the healthcare crisis right in front of you. Typical getting a medicine ready to market takes 10 to 15 years. And we did this in 6 months. What are your concerns? I mean, the initial thing is, oh, it's ready to go. But we have things that have gone through clinical trials and finally got cleared 10 to 15 years later, only to find out 20 years from now that there's side effects that linger. What are your concerns with that being introduced to the public?
Well, with vaccinations, they are always changing. Sometimes the issue is with the vaccine itself, and sometimes the issue may be with the chemicals that it's made out of. With the COVID vaccination, I'm actually a good person to ask this question to. 20 years ago, I went to Johns Hopkins and got my master's in public health. At that time, that was the first SARS outbreak in China that occurred. And actually some of my group, like we had epidemiology groups, but they would be in different places at different times. So you'd be like at midnight on the phone with a group meeting because, of the time difference. And so they were working on this 20 years ago. So I think that the term Operation Warp Speed is just misleading. That marketing. It seems like it just went to market, like it went through.
We identified.
Don't push that red button.
we identified this strain of flu variant about a year ago. Okay,
right.
December of 2019, I believe is correct. All right, so that variant was identified, and hence COVID-19, and we've had, at this point, about 14 months to try to resolve it.
Right, but the coronavirus variant that we have is novel, right? It's new. It had not been seen. But the coronavirus itself is ancient. Like it's been here for thousands of years. So
is this going to keep me from, the common cold is a variant of the coronavirus?
It is one form of the common cold.
And we have yet to solve the common cold.
But maybe we just did.
Okay. I mean, I'm not a medical doctor, okay? Someone with my last name played one on TV, but,
No, okay, so how does Operation Warp Speed work? The virus that we know now as COVID-19, because it was discovered actually in 2019, is novel to us. Our bodies have never seen it before, but we have seen coronavirus. And so for the past 20 plus years, they have been trying to formulate a vaccine for coronavirus. Okay, so that being said, how did we get to Operation Warp Speed and get this vaccine out already? Well, they had already been working on the vaccine for, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ahead of this. So what has happened is they created new technology on how to create a vaccine. And so the Pfizer vaccination and the Moderna vaccine are formed by messenger RNA. So what happens is you're not getting the virus. It's not dead, it's not live, it's nothing. You're getting a little plasmid that says, I'm in your body now, and now I'm going to produce this little protein. Okay. And then if you're introduced to COVID, your body's going to recognize it as that protein that we've already made an immune response to, and we're going to kill it. So that's how it works. So the technology is new. The virus that we've seen is novel, it's relatively new, but the coronavirus itself is not, so they've already been working on the technology ahead of all of this. That's why it seems so fast.
Our approach to solving this, or addressing the vaccine, the approach is new. The rDNA.
Right, the messenger RNA, the way we're creating vaccines is new. So what does that mean? That means that in the future, it will never, ever again take 10, 15 years to bring a vaccine to market ever again, right? Because we have new technology now. It's like dial-up phone, right? And then we had DSL, right, the slow skis. And then now we got broadband.
Yes.
You know, it is the difference between DSL and broadband.
Excellent, excellent. We hear a lot about herd immunity. Talk to us about herd immunity. What does that look like? What does it take for us to achieve that?
So from the research I've been seeing, so herd immunity essentially is a certain number of patients or people get the vaccine. So let's take MMR vaccine, measles, right? A lot of patients and a lot of people and children get that vaccine when they're younger. And so far, everybody in the nation, majority of people, 70%, 75%, maybe even 80%, because MMR has been around for a while, are vaccinated. So the herd immunity, essentially, so many people are vaccinated that it protects the people that are not vaccinated. But that means that a certain number of people have to be vaccinated in order for that to happen. So we hit the numbers that we need, which is like 70, 75%. They said it will take about 2 to 3 years to get to herd immunity where we want to be in the United States. That's the research that I've seen. Have you seen anything different, Dr. Fowler?
Well, I mean, the magic number is about 70%. 70%. That 70% of the population either has to have gotten the virus or been vaccinated. However, the virus, of course, as you've heard, threw us a curveball.
Changed.
Right? It mutated on itself.
Now, the reports on that is the shot or the vaccine is still as effective for the new strain as it was for the present strain that we're battling.
Exactly. To the best of science's knowledge.
But you know, on your discussion regarding herd immunity, we had a measles outbreak in Los Angeles a few years ago, and those who had the shots, previous inoculations, they were able to kind of repel, and we were able to contain that situation so it wouldn't take over LA. So that's kind of the same philosophy we're doing here, is if we can get 70-75% with vaccinated, hopefully we can, if there is an outbreak, it's only going to be minor and not nationwide.
Exactly. But we don't want to get to herd immunity by natural immunity. That is insane. That would mean that like 30% of the population would have to die in order for the other 70% to be.
What is the cure rate currently? Because I've heard Dr. Ben Carson say, we're at about a 99% cure rate from those who contract COVID, and there's 1% that 1% is still unacceptable. Don't get me wrong, but if it's 1% of the population that's lost, that's painful to our nation. But you just said a number that was much higher than 1%. So what?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how they come about that number. I mean, you would have to check the mortality rate in your community, right? So the number of people who have died is how many people, how many people in your community have died per how many people in your community in the population as a whole. So, I mean, I think it's way too soon to tell, and certainly it's not a mortality rate of 1% if. What's the past number? I mean,
part of the argument is that, I'm not quite feeling well, and maybe I don't have, all the symptoms, and I'm just saying I'm going to sit at home for a week and see if I feel better. I might have flu-like symptoms, but I'm going to sit at home. I'm going to isolate myself. I'm not going to bother going to the doctor. If it gets worse, I'll go. So there's a possibility that, maybe Reggie had it, or I had it, and we didn't really feel ill by it, and we just said, okay, listen, I'm just going to chill at my house. Okay, I'm going to get on Facebook and put my comments up on Facebook so Reggie can say the Redskins are great. Okay, and when we're all said and done, neither one of us really realized that we had it, or we weren't a statistic, so to speak. And a lot of families are going to be, oh, well, I don't feel healthy, but I don't have the money to go to the emergency room. I don't have the money to go get a test, or have even the way to get out there. So this is where I'm saying, I would put credence in what Dr. Ben Carson said, because I mean he is a fairly celebrated neurosurgeon. But you're in the front lines, and I have to respect what you're saying. But is there a happy medium, or where do you feel the number really does pin out?
I mean, you can run the number, like you can do the math. I do not believe that how many people have died up to this day, like 400,000 people divided by how many people have so far tested positive. I don't think that's 1%.
Yeah, I mean, it was recent information I pulled down, but
I believe when they look at that number, the 1% comes from when you look at the population as a whole, as opposed to the population that has contracted the virus. So I think that's where that number comes in there. Last question we'll ask about this. What else do we need to know? What is it important for the public to know?
I mean, you want like a scientific answer, or do you want like my opinion, or?
Your opinion as you're allowed to share based upon your employer.
We want it raw and real for the people.
Oh, you want it raw. Okay, so the issue with COVID is that it's kind of the truth, and the truth is, what are you willing to do for your neighbor and your family, right? We are asked to put 4 inches across our face, wash our hands, and stay 6 feet-ish apart to the best of our ability. That's all we're asked to do in order to decrease the spread of this. And we do it for our neighbor, for our parishioners, like if we go to church, for our colleagues. We do it for the person next to you. If you were a Marine, you are told as a Marine that you have to look out for the person next to you. So, my opinion is everybody needs to soldier up and be a Marine and just look out for the person next to you. Because COVID it's all it's asking us is to do those 3 things in order to just about eradicate it. How do we know? Because it's been eradicated in New Zealand and Australia. They followed all the rules and it's gone. That's how we know that there's legitimate, concrete evidence that if you follow all the rules, we wouldn't have to deal with any of this. We can go to restaurants. I could go see Wonder Woman at the movies.
Yet they're still at risk if someone, because they're under extremely tight quarantine. So they're still at risk if someone from, once things quiet down, if someone from China or the United States, Japan, wherever.
They're not allowing you in, Henry.
They're not letting, yeah.
But eventually their borders will open. Okay, so there's still a potential that they're at risk because they never had the breakout pandemic that we had here. Okay, neither New Zealand nor Australia had the same numbers per 1,000 that we experienced in our country. So,
well, Dr. Fowler, that was well said. Look out for your neighbors. That simple, correct?
I love my neighbors.
Thank you.
I don't want them to get sick from this.
Up next, earlier this week, the federal government had the first execution of a female inmate in 67 years.
Did you know Antietam Broadband offers an affordable, reliable home phone solution? Get unlimited local and U.S. long distance, plus call waiting, caller ID, voicemail, and more. Switching your home phone service to Antietam is easy, and you can keep your same number. Antietam Broadband, the reliable choice. Make the switch and start saving today. Add home phone service from Antietam Broadband. Call 301-797-5000 today.
The University System of Maryland at Hagerstown provides a convenient location for students to earn a bachelor's, master's, or even doctoral degree. Located in downtown Hagerstown, USMH offers more than 20 degrees from 7 Maryland state universities. Classes are taught by the same professors you would find at your home institution, and your degree comes from that university too. Regional tuition rates are available for select counties in Pennsylvania, Virginia, and West Virginia. There is even student housing within walking distance of the campus. Simply apply for transfer admission at the university that offers your program. Scholarships are available both from USMH and individual universities. With flexible scheduling, small class sizes, and state-of-the-art facilities, there's no better time to complete your degree. Apply today. University System of Maryland at Hagerstown. Academic excellence, outstanding value.
We see, and there's pictures embedded in my mind of, for example, a little 3-year-old girl who's carrying bags of things that her mom had selected, and her mom before her is in here as well. So generations where you can see that this is a special place, something for them to be able to select a neat gift, and to see that transcend across generations is, it's just a great thing.
This is what it can feel like when you outgrow your internet speed. Chances are you have more internet-connected devices in your home than you did a year ago. Switch to Antietam Internet for the right fit for all your devices. Antietam Broadband delivers the speed and reliability you need with professional installation and no contracts. Sign up for internet service today and get speeds up to 1 gig. Call or visit AntietamBroadband.com.
Welcome back. Earlier this week, the federal government executed a female inmate for the first time in 67 years. It was a pretty gruesome crime. What say you about this, Henry?
Well, you have to question why, we had a moratorium on executions for a while in the nation. But you have to question, is it cruel and unusual punishment if the person knows that they're going to be put to death? And then they just sit there for 17 years. We sat through a gruesome crime being that she murdered a woman who was 8 months pregnant and carved out to take the baby. Okay, gruesome probably isn't even the appropriate word for that. I believe in the death penalty. The fact that it took so long. Now there was issues. They did challenges. Reggie would probably touch on some of the challenges that they brought forward, and ultimately the Supreme Court said that she needed to be executed. So I'll turn over to Reggie for his.
Terrence, what say you on this matter?
Sorry.
As Henry kind of pointed out, the biggest challenge was mental illness around the lady being executed. Of course, it's unfortunate, as we know that mental illness is something that is kind of under-evaluated throughout our country. But again, this was a very gruesome crime. I'm not anyone's judge or jury, so I can't say whether or not she deserved to die or not because of the execution. But I do agree. I believe waiting 17 years to die is torture. And I don't believe anyone should have to wait that long to go through that process. If the law is that there is a death penalty for this kind of crime, then it should be handled swiftly and. And I want to get as trivial into the cost of taking care of inmates for 17 years or multiple years, just to ultimately say that there's no rehabilitation in process, that we're going to give them lethal injection. So, I think, this is one of those cases, no matter what across the country, people are going to have emotional ties to it. This is one of those divisive topics, whether or not you believe in execution or not. And I'm sure this is going to come up and resurface as the administration changes.
Right. And as we were saying, our attorneys were challenging us, speaking towards the mental illness that she has as a reason that she should not be executed. Where do you fall on that, Henry?
Well, one, to take another's life, I think there has to be some shorted wires up in someone's brain. Okay, to deprive anyone of life, I think that, there's something not right upstairs. So certainly everyone can go out and say, listen, you know, it's mental default and I shouldn't be executed. It's the level of mental default or mental challenges that this person faces. And I can't say I'm positive because I don't know the entire history of the case, but I'm sure she had been vetted for whether she was psychologically competent to stand trial. Now, whether that 17 years of while she was behind bars changed that competence level, that's entirely possible. But you know, there are procedures that if there's a risk that they are presented the opportunity to meet with psychologists and determine. And she was found competent to stand trial. The appeals court felt contrary, but the Supreme Court came back oddly in a 6-3 vote to say that she was competent.
This also speaks to, she was the 11th prisoner that was killed by lethal injection since the Trump administration has been in. Now that we're about to transition to the Biden administration, how do you speculate that's what we're going to move in regards to?
You know, regarding the Biden administration, they have a lot of priorities. I'm sure when the next scheduled one is, when the next one is scheduled, that there will be action by the Biden administration to see that it doesn't go through. That's kind of one of the dividing lines between the Republicans and the Democrats. Typically, Democrats are more in favor of keeping them locked up for life versus executing, doing the execution. But I can't imagine the first 100 days that, unless there's a execution plan, that Joe Biden, this is going to be on his priority list of things to get done.
I would agree there. There's a lot going on right now, and I don't think this is
not even getting into those weeds.
And I say 11. I don't know what that number means. You know, how many people were up for death penalty? Right. How long were they sitting on death row? So I think just throwing out a number out there is a little arbitrary. For me to really understand to say that because of this administration, that number is high.
But this is on a federal level. If we sit back and we look at the state of Texas, the state of Florida, they are much more aggressive in imposing the death penalty, and more frequent to do so. You look at the state of California, I don't think there's been an execution in California probably since the 70s. I could be wrong, but that's up to the state. But this was a federal crime. Why this elevated to a federal crime, I don't know the particulars of the case. I mean, it was a murder, but how did it move over?
Yeah. I'm trying to see if there's anything else that sticks out in this particular article. Obviously, the appeals court gave a stay of execution, but the Supreme Court came in and ruled 6-3 that they were going to move forward with that. And she was pronounced dead earlier this week at 11:31 a.m. So,
well, the other thing regarding lethal injection is, I think Ohio is at a state of being able to do lethal injection because of the chemicals that were used. A state judge declared, well, it was not a humane way to put someone to death. But on the federal level, so that's an interesting way if that's going to be presented as a challenge and maybe something the Biden administration is going to take up as a reason.
All right, up next, 3 panelists, 5 topics in 10 minutes. Stay with us for Fast 5.
Did you know that by bundling your cable services, you can save on your monthly bill? It's true. Antietam Broadband provides affordable bundling options, so you can combine high-speed internet, cable TV, and home phone all on one convenient monthly bill. And save, well, a bundle. Antietam Broadband, the affordable choice. Save hundreds of dollars per year when you bundle high-speed internet, cable TV, and home phone from Antietam. Call 301-797-5000 or visit AntietamBroadband.com and start saving today.
Hi, I'm Mr. Copyquick, and at my shop, we offer many products to help market your business. Let me show you a few ideas. We offer stunning graphic design, quality printing, addressing and mailing too. Need a trade show display? We create booths that draw a crowd. Does your retail signage need a facelift? We can help. We can even turn your vehicle into a full-time salesman. Stop by and see us today. Other printers might be nearby, but no one else comes close to Copyquick.
At Customizers, we understand that it's not the destination, it's the journey. Whatever your personal needs are for automotive freedom, Customizers is committed to helping you achieve your own independence. Visit our facility and choose from our huge selection of new and used mobility vans, scooter lifts, hand controls, transfer seats, and accessories. At Customizers, we believe that staying at home is not an option. Customizers Mobility in Hagerstown, located off Interstate 81, exit 10A on Pennsylvania Avenue.
It begins with a click, and just like that, you're immersed in a world of wonder, education, entertainment, information. Connect with family and friends from around the block or around the world. So, when it's time to connect, Antietam Broadband will be there to make it happen. Now offering speeds up to 1 gig. Antietam Broadband, connecting you to what's important.
Welcome to the Fast Five. Let's get started. So in the news this past week from WTOP, Maryland ranks the 3rd most charitable state in the union, behind Utah and Minnesota. Coming to you first, Henry.
Okay. I think that's great. You know, I also think that, you know, Maryland, we are, you know, one of the more higher earning states in the union, so that probably leads to being able to be charitable. But honestly, I don't think it depends on the size of the paycheck as to the size of one's heart. And I think, you know, we can look around in our community. All of us try to give something back, whether it's by, you know, a dollar cents or time cents into our community. I think that's, you know, kudos to us.
And the one thing about this article, this is not only monetary contributions, this is also volunteering of time. So for instance, the state of Virginia is 2nd in monetary contributions, but they're 28th when it comes to donations of their time. So I think that speaks well of the state of Maryland because, you know, they're high on both levels, right? In regards to not only are they charitable with their wallets, but they're charitable with their time. And I know that we see that a lot in our own community.
Absolutely, and you know, it's a third. It's talent, you know, that really can't be, you know, quantified to the point of how we give and how much actually charitable work actually gets done. That doesn't go into some kind of database or hours that are being actually tracked. So this is something we can hang our hats on. And even here in Washington County, we have 700 nonprofits in Washington County alone. That just speaks to people's philanthropic work that they want to do for the community. They want to fill the gaps and some of the supplement some of the work that can't be done due to budget constraints and limitations, and kind of focusing on different groups that are in need. So and last year, can you imagine what we would have been like if we didn't have our nonprofits and givers who gave money, who gave their talent, who gave their time throughout 2020 when we needed it the most? So this was great.
I agree, and I think in the first half of 2021, we're going to need those folks to step up and give and contribute to community even as much as they did in 2020. Next, distilleries won't have to pay FDA fees of more than $14,000 for making hand sanitizers amid pandemic. I think that would be pretty crazy, right? If you would have to pay the government for helping the people in the
Let's think, back when the pandemic exploded, we didn't have enough sanitizer, and the distiller said, listen, we know the governor's keeping the bars open, but let us alter our production and let's get some hand sanitizer so the community feels safer. And they did it not knowing that there was some caveat in the law, in one of the 10,000 pages, you know, underneath the FDA that says, oh, you have to register for this and it's a fee. So it's good that, you know, people stepped in that were higher up with a little bit more common sense and said, nah, we're not doing this. Because it didn't just impact, you know, people who were making stuff in Washington County, it impacted everyone across the nation. You know, $14,000 would be a death knell to a lot of these, you know, smaller companies.
I agree. This, you know, in a time where common sense isn't always so common, this is just doing the right thing. And, you know, it should have been, again, a no-brainer for them not to have to pay these fees. So I'm glad this was corrected. And, you know, they weren't the only businesses. You know, a lot of T-shirt companies were the first ones to put PPEs out there where they turned their production to masks. And, you know, a lot of the businesses stepped up and kind of changed direction of their production to help their community. And to be penalized for it would have been a slap in the face.
Yeah, I mean, you had the My Pillow guy stop making pillows so he could put PPE masks out, okay? So, you know, if he can do it and our local people are doing it, this is great.
Yeah, yeah. The significance of today, taping the show on Wednesday, today starts the legislative session in Annapolis. I've seen on Facebook our Senator Quarterman post a picture of him standing in the position that his father did, which I thought was really cool. But in looking at that, let's talk about committee assignments. It looks like Senator Paul Quarterman is going to be on budget and taxation. He'll be there with Senator George Edwards. Delegate Neil Parrott will be on environment and transportation. Delegate Mike McKay is in appropriations. Our new delegate Brenda Cham is in judicial. And Delegate Bill Wyville is also in environment and transportations. What do you say about that?
I'm not really, I don't have a chart to see where they were before. I think for Senator Quarterman, this may be possibly a vetting. See how maybe next year he'll find another committee that he's more passionate about and possibly transfer to it. But it's excellent to have two people who are locally that are on that Senate committee, because I believe Senator Edwards is also on it.
Yes.
Okay. So it's great that we have that representation. It's I think for Delegate Cham, it's a way to get the foot in the door and start to understand how Annapolis works. It's her first time down there, so there's a lot of things moving down there, and it's not too crazy yet. But the crazy season will be upon them soon enough that I'm sure they're going to have their place full.
Absolutely, and it looks like Senator Quarterman is basically plug and play. He's replacing the position that Senator Serafini had.
Right, right, and Senator Serafini was an extremely strong voice and was looked upon by both sides of the aisle for his contributions. And, we expect the same thing from Senator Quarterman now. So, he has the accountability to the entire state to be responsible in that role.
Yeah, it'll be a little bit different in regards to kind of where Senator Quarterman will be able to take it. One of the tools that Senator Serafini had in the toolbox, he was a CFP.
Right.
He was certified financial planner, so that put him in a unique space there. But Paul's going to get his opportunity to kind of carve out his own niche and space there. Terrence.
No, I would agree with that. I think it was a big accomplishment and recognition for Senator Quarterman to be put in this position so quickly. Again, with the experience of former Senator Serafini and the time it took him to get into that position and the reputation he had, those are big shoes to follow as well. He's highly regarded in that committee. But I also heard that Paul's a golden boy right now, and people think very highly of him down in Annapolis, and I agree. I think this may be some vetting for him to kind of sink or swim and see, if he's going to be the next big thing down in Annapolis right now, and kind of representing our community. So I wish him all luck, and I had the opportunity to speak to them all a couple of days ago on a call with the Leadership Washington County group, and that's all I can tell them. I wish you luck. This is going to be a challenging year. If there's any year to succeed, this is going to be it.
And apparently, with some of the rioting and looting we've had around the state, I know that every state capital has their own protocols and some concerns that they have in regards to things there. So I can see that this being a challenging session.
I mean, the picture of Senator Quarterman was behind the plexiglass bubble.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And
I was thinking hockey.
Yeah, yeah. You're in. This is a 5-minute penalty. Okay, your team's playing short. But it's completely new to everyone in Annapolis this year, because last year we didn't have all these protocols in place. But this year it's completely new. So it's going to be interesting to see how everyone makes adjustment to the new normal of doing business in Annapolis.
Yes.
And a louder public voice, because now you can testify and send in testimonies online, virtually. You don't have to go down to Annapolis. So there's some strengths that comes with that as well.
Well, with the disadvantage of when you're testifying, you don't have your attorney sitting beside you saying, you can't say.
Or an advantage.
Yeah, right. Could be.
Next, hotel owners lose appeal in the CRS case here in Hagerstown, or actually the owners of the Morgansville Hotel.
Well, this is the Morgansville Volunteer Fire Department. They wanted to separate the ambulance into a different location and actually have 2 ambulances available. And the question is where they were going to locate the ambulance, which is near their property. And initially they didn't have the proper setback. And they brought that to appeal. And this is going on, it started in 2013. So, we're now 8 years into this, and to me, community safety is a little bit more priority than someone who is spending the night at your hotel and they might get disturbed because the siren's going off and they're going out for a call, or maybe we have a little traffic backed up on 81 as the light switches for 30 seconds so the ambulance can get access to the intersection. And it's good that we would have two. It would be convenient to, living on the north end, it would certainly be convenient to have those resources.
Well, I'm sure as a small business and the challenging times that we're having to deal with this is making things exponentially more stressful. But it doesn't look like that this circumstance is over, because it looks like the hotel owner, Raj Patel, is going to appeal to the highest courts in the state. What say you, Terrence?
And he has every right to. It shouldn't have dragged on this long, if you ask me. It's a shame that with that length of time, some kind of concession or collaboration couldn't have been done to come up with something.
He did make the one request. He says, why can't you locate it closer to the Burger King? Well, they can't locate it closer to the Burger King because they don't own that land. And I don't know who owns the land, whether it's the people who have the building at the Burger King or if it's another lot. It's just not an option. So
I just think it's one of these things where you get the right people to the table, you can come up with some kind of solution. And court sometimes creates some friction where someone has to win. And this seems like an issue of collaboration and just explaining, like you said, that's a perfect explanation, life or death scenarios that can be caused by something like this. So I just think hopefully everybody could take a step back, come back to the table, come up with a resolution. I just don't, it could go to the courts, higher in the courts, but I don't know if it's necessary.
I mean, this is carried on for 8 years. We all know that attorneys don't work under pro bono typically. This has become an expense to a small business owner, and so it's a burden to his business, but he's continued, I guess, because he feels he's in the right, but can't we find some way to find a common ground?
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, if it was me, I would have referred into mediation first, because it sounds like that's what he needed was mediation.
Oh, there you go.
I didn't want to plug my own
stuff.
But,
there we go.
And we don't charge. Sorry, lawyers.
All right, so let's get to our lighthearted moment. Well, I'm not sure how lighthearted, because obviously there's going to be business impacts of this, but the slow death of American all-you-can-eat buffet. Take it away.
You just talked to my inner hungry boy. Buffets. I think there was a big shift from buffets anyway. I'm thinking first thing that came to mind was cruise lines. There's 10, 15 buffets going at any time on cruise lines. We've seen cruise lines even before COVID actually broke out that they dealt with a number of diseases like the norovirus, and a lot of these things were coming from buffets. Think about it, when you have and not to knock any business that has buffets, but when you have something called a sneeze guard, over your food, it can really trigger some concerns. So
well, it beats the time when they didn't have a sneeze guard over the food.
Right.
Okay. Right. Having a background in food service, the thing that gets me is you might be out at one of the local buffets, and you have this little 3-year-old who has been screaming and has tears and snot running down, and next thing you know, he's going up there to the chocolate fountain to hold his hand in there and just lick from the chocolate fountain. Or, I'm sorry, it freaks me out. It does happen. It freaks me out because I have the food background, and the food background says you do every preventative step you can to prevent contamination. Okay? That's why sneeze guards went in place. That's why you have a temperature that your hot food's supposed to be, and the temperature your cold food's supposed to be, and how you chill it, and how you heat it up. A whole litany of things that you are responsible for the customers. Now we add in the fact that, oh, gee, someone's touching a handle, and maybe they have some kind of germ on them, and now we can, when under contact tracing, it's going to be us as a focal point. It's just not worth it. And I've never been a fan of buffets. I like my food hot and fresh and on the table. I don't want to go through what someone's been dishing up.
All right, well, I'll give you the last word on that. That is all the time we have for tonight. We hope that you'll like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and send us your comments to feedback@theflipsidetv.com. That is feedback@theflipsidetv.com. More importantly, we hope you join us again next week for another episode of The Flip Side.